in Ireland. And Artur Kmiecik, you're welcome, Artur. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Artur is the ethnic minority officer at Newry Moore District, but we're not talking about that. We're interested in Artur because he's been living here amongst us. He's a Pole. He retains his Polishness with great affection and fondness, but he has embraced Ireland, even to the extent of his dear daughter, who's now in university across the water, bringing with her there an Irish accent.
Oh yes.
You've put the cloak of Ireland on very easily, Artur.
Yes, maybe because before I came here, we traveled quite a lot, and we spent some time, or I spent some time when I was a student in England, and we also spent some time in some other countries in Europe. So when we arrived here, in a way, we had some experience of living abroad.
Yes.
And additionally, my wife comes from Ukraine. She's from Kiev, so we are a bit international because
Yes, you are.
my wife speaks Russian, Ukrainian, and we traveled there, and we also lived there for a short time.
What's it like to be an internationalist in the modern world?
Interesting. I mean, it's interesting because somehow you have a chance to take the best of all cultures. And you have a chance also to have some sort of perspective when you look at your own country. And also you see a lot of perhaps not good things in your own country, which you probably, without having this perspective, wouldn't be able to see.
Well, from that unique perspective, Artur, you mentioned different cultures. You experienced different. Are the several cultures of humanity all that different, fundamentally?
Fundamentally, cultures are not different, although nations are, and I'm very happy about it, because it's very interesting to look at different nations and at different characters. I mean, people are the same everywhere.
Yeah.
People are friendly or less friendly. And so people will be the same, but each nation is unique in a way, and each nation is worth exploring, I think.
Well, you're a different nation today to the nation you were 40 years ago, Poland, in that once upon a time it was under the dominion of the communist bloc. Now you're a republic, and a proud republic.
Yes.
Do you remember the movement from one to the other?
Oh yes, I remember very well, because it was actually...
Your microphone is just pulled out there. Can we put it back in again, please? Just put it. That's it in now. We just need to keep the wire loose. Keep that wire loose. Thank you.
Yes, I remember this very well, because it was actually when I was a student. Everything happened when I was at university. So all the solidarity movement and all these riots in Poland, strikes in Poland, all this happened when I was at university.
Well, Solidarity was a trade union movement. You were a student at university.
But somehow it was it was not exactly a trade union movement, because later on we realized very soon that we students have to support workers, and workers realize that they have to support us. So soon it became a sort of nationwide movement where everybody was involved, because we knew that that people from different walks of life have to support themselves. Yeah.
What was the process by which the Soviet Union so apparently easily let you go?
Apparently easily, although it wasn't so easy, I think, because we were very much frightened. I remember that we listened to foreign radio stations, and you know that there were thousands of tanks on the border with Poland. And actually we're very much afraid that at any moment they can invade Poland. We were also afraid that if we create absolutely free democracy as you had in the West, then we don't have much chance. So in a way we were bargaining that perhaps we will have a system like former Yugoslavia, or something like maybe in Finland, we were very much afraid.
Yeah.
But perhaps, you know, because Poland is still a big nation, it's a nation of 40 million people, between Russia and Germany. So we also were hoping that the Russians will be a little bit afraid or scared to invade a big nation, because it may cause problems. Yeah.
And that's the way it turned out.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it was in a way, yeah.
Jerome, you have major responsibilities being there as a servant of the Polish people in Northern Ireland. And if you thought at the beginning it was going to be easy, it hasn't turned out that way.
No.
You've worked very, very hard indeed, and are working hard as the honorary consul of Poland.
Yeah, well, of course, I suppose I didn't expect, that it was going to be quite as busy as it turned out to be. But I suppose on reflection, I should have realised too as well, with such a very large population that had come to Northern Ireland from 2004 onwards, was going to bring problems as well. Yeah. And that some of those problems would make their way in my direction, and of course that's the way that it has turned out.
Problems are often instigated by loneliness, by people cut adrift from all that is easy to them, cut adrift from their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Young men perhaps, and we had incidents of, God help us, folk taking their own lives, and that comes to your door as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and the problems, of course, were multifaceted, and came in many different directions. Everybody is different. It's not like they come all with the one problem. They come with different problems, and there are different pressures that they have to actually cope with. And some are better at doing it than others. And unfortunately, you've mentioned I remember in my early days, in fact, in the first 2 months, I had, in fact, 6 suicides.
Oh, my dear.
And it was just, it just worked out, what happened. Now, these were all very different cases, all mainly, to do with relationships, and there was the issue of loneliness. And then, as I've often mentioned many times, there was the issue of language, and trying to fit in, if you like, with in a foreign land without having the benefit of being able to communicate, in the normal way. So this was difficult.
You, Artur, you're here in Ireland, well settled, a happy man. You miss Poland, though.
It's a question which everybody asks me, whether I miss Poland or not. And sometimes I give a surprising answer that no. I know that I should say, yes, I miss Poland. I mean, I travel to Poland quite often. It is not far away. I mean, if you think about it, it takes an hour to go to the Dublin airport, 2 hours by plane, and an hour from the airport in Poland to my hometown. Yeah. So within 5 hours, if I start at 9 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, I'm in Poland.
You're home.
So,
putting your feet up by a Polish fire.
Exactly. So it is not so far away. I traveled but maybe because I'm curious of different, or my family is curious of different nations, different cultures. So I enjoy being here, and I think that I have already seen Poland so much, and I lived in this country for more than, I don't know, of my life.
Yes.
So, I really enjoy living here and appreciating what you've got here. And you've got a lot.
Do you sense that we have a lot, but at times we're silly, at times we're foolish, at times we don't befriend you in the way we should? We have silly, stupid, foolish people who get involved in hate crime. And that's something that impacts on your people.
But it does not happen so much in Europe, or I would say that in Europe people are very friendly. So it is something which I appreciate, and I think that most of not only Polish people but people from other communities appreciate that Newry is very friendly. Newry is really a very friendly place.
Well, this man from he's an adopted son of Newry now. Yeah. He's from a place called Cavan down there amongst the lakes and the flatlands of Cavan.
The flatlands,
I think
yes.
your flatlands.
The lakelands.
A bit like Poland. You're
yeah.
quite with
That's
swathes
the
of
lakes.
very
flatness.
flat.
Lots of lakes
Yeah.
you have. Here is an Irishman propelled into the Polish culture to be your emissary, your consul in Northern Ireland. What's the interface between, we often hear, we see him on television, we hear him making the case for the Polish people. What's the relationship like between the consul, the honorary consul and the folk?
I think that the relationship is fantastic, and we are very lucky to have Jerome. And I say that because quite often honorary consuls are represented by native people. So Polish people will be representing Polish people abroad, and it happens. Usually these are Polish people who have been living here for 20 years or in the United States. But we are very happy to have Jerome because Jerome is very well known here. And Jerome is very reliable, I think, for you all. So if he represents us, it's an honor for us.
Yes.
Because we're very happy that somebody from local people decided to welcome us,
Yes,
decided to open his arms and say, well, I know that it's difficult to be a migrant worker, it's difficult to be abroad. I experienced this from my life. I will represent you. So this adoption, in a way, of our nation by Jerome, I think it was very fortunate for us. And Jerome is very helpful. I mean, hundreds of cases.
Yes.
He was able, hundreds of cases.
Yes.
He was able to solve and he was able to help in hundreds of other cases, so he's absolutely
we're
very
greatly
helpful for
blessed
us.
because, and I don't know to what extent it's occurring across Northern Ireland, but we have an ethnic minority officer in Newry, you, and we're not talking about your job, you're here as an individual, but you're that, we're lucky to have our council with the wisdom to create such a position.
Yeah.
So we have the consul, the honorary consul in Newry, we have you in Newry as the ethnic minority officer. Is this happening in other council areas, Jerome?
It might be happening in maybe one or two others, but it actually, in a way, Newry is unique, and certainly Newry was the first actually council to take this kind of initiative and appoint an ethnic minority officer, a dedicated person that was going to look after not just the Polish immigrant communities here, but also all the other nationalities that are living in Newry. And we are very fortunate to have, thank you very much indeed to Artur for his kind comments, but Artur is a magnificent person himself in actually holding the particular position that he does hold in relation to looking after all the multifaceted problems that comes to his door every day.
You see,
you know, and he was so ideally suited. You know, he talked a moment ago basically about him having been an international person. You were asking him how easy he found to settle here.
Yes.
He has found it very, because he was a much travelled person already, but he also he came also with a reasonably good command of the language.
Absolutely.
And that is obviously very beneficial. He fits in extremely well, and he has made sure he has fitted in very, very well, and is ideally placed to look after the particular interests of the ethnic minority
One of the things that causes me a little concern, it's the possibility, we have the Polish priest, we have the Polish consul, we have the Polish community. I long for the day when we'll have the Newry community with Irish people and Polish people in it. I long for the day when the Polish priest will say the Irish masses as quickly as he says the Polish masses. I long for the day when we'll have a candidate going forward for Westminster for our part of the world, a Polish person.
Well, that is
then you
already.
have arrived, you see.
Yeah.
But until that really happens, you haven't arrived. You're in a kind of modern ghetto, God help us, of being, it's a nice place to be because you're welcomed in Newry, but I long to see you taken into the community of Newry, our sons and daughters. And I suppose there'll be intermarrying and things like that.
To some extent, that is already happening.
Good.
And I think Artur probably would agree with that. And also with regard to the elections. I mean, at the last council elections, there were at least 4 or 5 Poles who actually ran for election in different parts of Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
I don't think you were aware of that.
Well, 4 or 5 across Northern Ireland
that's
is a
not
start.
a lot. It's
a start.
It is.
It's a start.
Yeah.
But it hurts me
That's
maybe a
right.
little that, to the best of my knowledge, none was elected.
None was elected.
So maybe we're not wise enough in Northern Ireland yet to go the whole distance.
It takes time. I think making that kind of start is at least a beginning.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And it will happen.
Do you know what I'm saying, Arthur? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes, but I think that it takes some time, because on the other hand you have this Polish, Lithuanian, Latvian kids going to school here, and if you think about them, they will be as much Irish as Polish or Lithuanian or Latvian, and even if you think about my children, I mean, for instance, my daughter is frequently. Not frequently, she is regarded as being Irish. She's in Leicester. My son, when sometimes he's 13 now, he goes to St. Coleman's, and sometimes we make a joke, all right, I mean, our children already went to university, so Matthew, we're coming back. And he says, no, I am Irish, I am from here. So in a way, I
it's
think
happening.
that yes, it's happening. This new generation will have the benefit of knowing 2 countries and feeling very comfortable here and absolutely identifying themselves with this country as well as with the country of their fathers and
as we head towards our last 5 minutes, I'm going to ask Sean there. He may be able to find it. There's a little film we used before, a little documentary on Poland, My Beautiful Poland, and I think it's there somewhere. Sean, if you can give me the thumbs up when you find that. Well, you've got it. No, okay, but you will when you get it. So the lovely thing, we were together at the event commemorating Auschwitz and Birkenau in Dublin.
Yes, the Holocaust.
And, I took the decision really the next day when I covered it and we talked about it, to carry a lovely film about Poland, something that said I wasn't going to leave the Poland in people's minds as Auschwitz and Birkenau. I wanted them to see the modern, beautiful Poland.
Yeah.
And
yes, and I saw that film that you ran indeed, and it was a beautiful piece of film. I don't know where you found it, but it was very, very nice to see. It showed.
Sent from the God of goodness.
Indeed,
He found us and said, take this for Poland.
Absolutely.
And we're going to show it again.
Yes, and while I know you didn't want to show the actual horror of the Holocaust and what went on in Auschwitz, Birkenau, and so on, it was very important that we remembered.
Oh yes.
That horrible period of our history, and to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I wonder, and I posed the question in my column in the Newry Democrat. I wonder if, just hear me through on this, because I don't know the answer myself, that the whole thing be razed to the ground and replaced with a forest of flowers and birdsong and the natural world, happily, water and lakes, and the bric-a-brac of the awfulness, the memorabilia of the terror, be taken to the Palace of the Nations in New York, and that they're held centrally there, but that Poland begins to breathe again without the foul smell of Auschwitz assailing it.
Yeah. And my own view would be no, I don't think so. I think, in fact, actually, it is very important that Auschwitz remains, yes, and that our young generation growing up will know of it, will remember that this is what happened in our civilization, in our time, in our history, and that we never allow it to ever happen again. So I think it is necessary for that.
Painful as it is.
Painful as it is.
Artur, your view on this? What do you think?
It's a very difficult question, and now you present this different perspective, which I always appreciate. What I was saying, that when you travel, you have different perspectives. I don't know. We are very much steeped in history, and I agree. And we are very much steeped in our tragic history. Perhaps we should be more cheerful, and we should view our history of future in lighter lights. But it will be very controversial, probably, for many people to think in this way. But this is a thought, in a way, but controversial.
A thought of the future.
But of course, we can show both.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
indeed.
it is possible to do that. So it is. So it's
absolutely.
not as if we can't show
Yeah.
what
No.
Artur is just speaking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
and what you would love to see
Yeah.
yourself, Ron.
There was I read only recently in a newspaper, somebody was suggesting perhaps we should take Auschwitz back to Germany,
Yes.
to Berlin, you know, and because then there will be this different perspective of
Absolutely.
looking at Auschwitz. So probably there are some
Yeah.
sort of thoughts going in this
Yeah.
direction.
So there are three.
Yeah.
There are three. We identify three possibilities: where it is, into Germany, or into the Palace of Nations in New York. Three considerations.
Yeah.
Who knows? We're going to look now at the beauty of
Yeah,
Poland.
Poland.
John.
Good.